Okay, we're recording. Hello, my name is Mac, and I would love to do a video series on building an in-ear rack. It sounds like a lot of work. It's a lot of work by itself, but why not film it at the exact same time and make it even harder? My name's Mac. I am a playback and monitor guy for a metal band called The Devil Wears Prada. I have also worked with other bands doing backline, guitar, drum teching, things like that. I play in a bunch of bands while I'm here at home, and I have some time off, so I thought might as well just document it while I build something for a client and again make it harder for myself. So this video probably nerd sniped you. You might be building a rack, you might not be. I like to watch people do really monotonous work for hours on end, so I thought I might as well just go ahead and make that myself too. We're gonna be building this rack. This is for a client. He saw one that I built for my own band, and he was like, "I kind of want the exact same thing that you have because it looks simple, easy to use, and it is." So he already had a lot of the gear. We are purchasing some gear as well to fully integrate everything, but we got a good chunk of it just like ready to go. So the rack he already had. This is an SKB 6U full depth fly rack. We will be overweight, I think, for sure by the time everything's done. But we will probably find some handy ways to like quickly unrack things, make it flyable, show up, re-rack. It's all together again. We have the Shure PSM 300s for the transmitters. Just a decent all-around unit, nothing too crazy or fancy, but good for the money and better than the cheap like Chinese crap that I use for my band. X32 is going to be half the brain of the operation, just feeding the in-ears as well as dealing with some virtual outs as well. Below that is going to be an Apollo X8. It's the Thunderbolt 2 generation, whatever generation that's called. That will be dealing vocal processing and playback. So we'll have 7 outputs on the back of the Apollo X8 and 3 XLR inputs for the vocal processing. On the back, we will obviously have a Furman because it's not a rack without a Furman. We will have the 1U antenna panel for the PSM 300s. It's not ideal to keep all the antennas close by like that unless you have like a combiner, but we are not doing a combiner at this time just to save a little bit of money. He says he hasn't had any issues with keeping the antennas close by for now, but that's something that we can integrate later pretty easily. Below that, we will have a custom 1U patch panel that will deal with a lot of the I/O and as well as power. So it'll be the vocal inputs for the Apollo X8. It will be the outputs for a wired drummer in-ear connection, as well as a main left-right, and the chance that they would need to run this as an actual mixer for feeding mains. The option will be there. And then there will be a 16-channel seismic audio split. Say what you will about the seismic audio stuff. I've been very shocked by the amount of bands, rather larger bands, that have used them. I've thought maybe you have more money to spend on a split and they're using the seismic stuff. So that's what I use personally. I've had no issues with it for the past 6 years that I've owned it. I spec'd it out for the client here, and he was like, if you're happy, then I'm happy. So we will be upgrading it with Switchcraft low profile XLR connectors on the interior of the rack for the X32 to save interior space, as well as just providing a better connector. Then the tails on the other side, we are working on speccing out if we just want to upgrade those to the Neutrik connectors. But again, I've had zero issues with them for 6 years, and I have not been too nice to them, honestly. That's mostly it, as well as the tails being the low profile XLRs. We are doing everything else low profile as well. We will be doing square plug, the the 1/4-inch TRS connectors will be doing the rest of the switchcraft, like for the auxes and the outs and stuff like that. All of that, everything will be Neutrik except for the square plug connectors. So it'll be pretty cool once it's all said and done. It's going to be a lot of soldering because I am soldering every termination in this thing. Even, the Cat 5 cable, I will probably crimp on a new connector because I'll want to get it to length. But other than that, let's hop onto the computer, and I want to show you some preliminary work before you build it for yourself, or if you're building it for somebody else, some work that, is kind of necessary, makes it a little bit easier on yourself. So let's get onto the computer. Okay, we're at the computer, and we're going to do some preliminary work because trust me, there is nothing worse than not ordering something that you need and you're almost done and you need that one thing and you have to wait another 5 days for shipping. So in my case here, I'm working on it for somebody else. So I'm not a business. I'm not going to just front the bill on everything. I'm just going to send a purchase sheet to the client of here's everything that you need. Links, quantities, everything, estimated cost. I'll show you that template here in a second. And they can get the credit card points. They can get all the other things. But I like to compile everything for personal use or for somebody else to prevent having to wait on a part to show up when you're almost done. So we're going to start here kind of at the basic level of an input list. So not too much rocket science here. I made it look more like rocket science than it needs to be, but that's just for my own brain. So we have a drum group, a bass group, guitar group, vocal group, and then, track stuff here, and then talk back. So how I have it labeled out here is in this drum group, source is stage. You could also, say it would be a snake or something like that. But in this case, I'm just home running everything, for example. So source is stage, split, first patch, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Routing is 1-to-1 because the tails are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on the out to the front of house tails, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's no, processing that's going on in between those tails. It's just going to be in and out. Bass, same case. Nice. Acoustic, electric 2, same thing. It's just going to be 1-to-1 patching on that. Vocal is where it gets a little interesting, is because we, for vocal 1, are going to come out of the vocal mic, go into a splitter that will split the signal. One signal will be for a dry vocal straight to front of house, and then the other signal will be going into the patch bay, which will go into the Apollo X8 for vocal processing. So I adjusted the routing here. And then from the output, it will then loom out and over into the patch bay, therefore being output 11 on, the tails. And I have it noted here, loom out of X8 and then into the panel. So vocal 2 and 3, it'll just be going directly into the patch bay, then to the X8. There won't be a dry splitter signal in there. 14 is a spare. We are going to be kind of moving some things around here just because I was able to open up some channels by being a little bit creative on some stuff. So we will likely add toms here into the drum group. For the tracks here, source is Apollo, split 15-16. It's just 1-to-1 from the loom out. Outputs, into the splitter. Talkback, it's not technically 17 like on the X32, but source is the stage, MD, drummer, somebody from a switching device such as a switching microphone or a radial hotshot that you can leave on the floor. That will go into patch bay 4 for our panel, which I'll show you here, our mock-up for that. Routing's 1-to-1. It's a virtual out. There's no output to front of house because you would not want that for front of house. Output list here, just all the XLR outputs there, and then the aux outputs here. Stereo mixes on the PSM 300s. So out 1 and 2 are for one person here, band member 1. Routing's just 1-to-1. pretty much on everything except for these 2 items here. Going down, let's say for out 7-8, that's our front of house. Routing is 1 to 2, just because we will be incorporating the patch panel into it. That's patch bay 5 and 6, I think. I'll have to check the mock-up again. And then aux out 3 and 4 are the patch bay 3 and 4. Again, probably not 3 and 4. That's for the wired connection of the drummer ears. So that's a 1 to 2 routing there. And then I will go over to this input diagram. This just lays out a really good picture of how things will be plugged in and how they will be routed kind of internally in the rack a little bit. Just it's not a crystal clear image of how it works, but it's, it's good enough to start wrapping your brain around what's going to happen. So drum group here, again, 1-to-1 routing. So it's just going directly into the splitter. 1 set of tails is front of house. 1 set of tails is for the X32 for monitoring. Bass and keys, same thing. Guitars, same thing, just home runs. Vocals, we start getting a little bit interesting because vocal 1, we come out, we have a splitter here that will be splitting to the front of house for a dry vocal, and then into the patch bay for processing. So 2 and 3 vocal are just going directly into the patch bay, directly into the Apollo X8. And yeah, that's pretty much it for vocals. The spare, that's no longer relevant there. For the laptop, we have just virtual out, so it'll be click and guide coming out of the Apollo X8 and then directly into the X32, because again, that doesn't have to go to front of house, just the band has to hear that. And then our groups here is our outputs of the Apollo X8, so 1, 2, and 3, process vocals, and tracks 1 and 2, going then into the splitter after they get processed and, converted from a signal standpoint. So that's just a diagram just to paint a better picture, how things will be routed and whatnot. And then I have the mock-up for the patch panel and how we'll do that. Process vocal 1 through 3. Then going into the X8, as I've said before, these are blank spots here just for future proofing. We have talkback, IEM left and right. That's for the drummer's hardwire connection going to their headphone amplifier. Main left right in the case that they need to run mains from the X32. And then power out, power in. That is just the white and blue power con, and those will be chained together inside of the panel there. And the power in tails will then go to a Edison plug that will feed the firm in. And then in the case that they forget the power con or, just whatever, they can unplug, they can break that connection inside and then just run an extension cord to it. So kind of saves your butt. It's a little redundant thing that I like to do. For all of that, that paints me a way better picture for purchasing. So I like to build a purchase list again so I don't forget anything. I need to have everything squared away and I have everything all in one spot at my house and I'm not forgetting anything. So in this case, we have the Seismic Audio 16 channel split. We didn't already have that for the build. That's what we spec'd. So I put this on the price sheet for him to purchase. Then we only have one Amazon item, which is the rack panel. Kind of came out clutch on that. Only one Amazon purchase. Then the rest of it is from Bestronix, and then we have Sweetwater over here because we found a better deal on Sweetwater. So we have the female XLR panel mounts, the male XLR panel mounts. The quantities here to reflect that, they are for the patch bay. Cabling, everything. I have 80 feet spec'd out. It could be overkill. I kind of loosely base every connection on kind of like a 1 to 2 foot connection of termination to termination on the cable. One, leaving slack on things for protection. Two, when you're bulk building, it's nice to leave extra slack or extra length on the cable, so you can then cut them down to exact length and not worry about overstripping, or you didn't originally give yourself enough cable to make that termination and then connection. So I overspec the quantity because I'd rather have all the extra length that I need. And in this case, since I'm building it for somebody, I'll just buy back what they aren't going to use. So I always like to have extra cable around, too much cable, honestly. PowerCon in and out there, panel mount, PowerCon cable connector. I already have SO cable and Edison plugs, but that is something you would want to spec out if you're making a PowerCon cable. Let's see here. We have the low profile XLR connectors, which we found a better deal on Sweetwater. Bestronix, they were like $8.50 to $9 a piece, and Sweetwater had them like $6 to $6.50. So it's like $2 savings on everything, which is crazy, especially when you're working on quantities this high. That's a big bit of savings there. So we have the square plug connectors here, the 1/4-inch TRS. I got 14 of those for the Shure PSM 300 inputs, and then the auxiliary in and outs. Panel boots, 8 of those for the XLR, and then 2 of them for the PowerCon ones. The PowerCon ones are longer because you have exposed main voltages in there, and you want that extra length for also the wire stripping length that you need. MISC shop supplies, solder, zip ties, inkers, labels, dual lock, Loctite. Man, what else? I mean, you could say flux, tools, whatever you kind of need. I'm only charging $10 for this person just because I buy all of this stuff like in bulk and have it laying around, and I'm not gonna nickel and dime somebody over charging 20 cents a zip tie when it was a penny. So the items that you kind of need are exactly kind of what I have listed down here. There will be more or less. I could come up with a probably more in-depth list, but a lot of the things that you'll need are just there. You could use like a machine screw, a set of just MISC M-spec bolts and nuts and things like that. But that's a good start, and then that's just a quick run to the hardware store if I need something, rather than I can't just go to the store and buy a PowerCon connector. You might where you live, but there's no audio house I can just buy that from. So that's essentially it for the purchase list. I just like to make sure I have everything that I need ready to go. It's all in one spot. I don't need to order something in case I forget. Whatever, doesn't matter. Just make sure you have every little thing spec'd out and purchased, and you won't run into that issue. That's it for this video. In the next video, we will likely just go ahead and start building some stuff, or at least prepping layout and chopping up some cables and getting lengths ready to go. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.